Hi, and welcome to Ludonarrative Dissidents. This is Season 2, Episode 7, MÖRK BORG, a dark fantasy role-playing game of dealing with the end of the world as your colorful characters go on dungeon crawls, fight monsters, and probably die horrible deaths. So this is a unique game in a lot of ways. It has been called an art punk game. Its graphic design and art and style have gotten a lot of attention. It has led to a string of games inspired by it, both from its own developers, like Cyborg, which is its cyberpunk version, which has just come out recently, and third-party versions such as Pirate Borg, which is Darkest Dungeon meets Pirates of the Caribbean. Also a Western game called Frontier Scum, among many, many other games. But it is developed by, it was written by Pelle Nilsson, and the graphic design and art are from Johan Nohr, and also a lot of public domain artwork repurposed for the book.
Something that a quality operation like this podcast would never resort to.
Oh no, the lady does protest too much, something like that. Yeah, so I have run this game. I read it. I'm very interested in it. I do not think it's a perfect game, but if I were to summarize this game in one sentence, it would be the D&D that your parents and conservative activists imagine existed in the 1980s.
My very first note on it is the crack cocaine of satanic panic.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's very evocative in trying to go for a particular style.
Yeah, there's a line in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, which the original title of which was Bill and Ted Go to Hell, which I think is a better title. There's a line where I forget who says it's, "Our heavy metal album covers lied to us." They did not lie to you in MÖRK BORG. It is basically the role-playing game of heavy metal album covers.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you are. My take on it is what you have here is stripped down, player-facing murder hobos in a grimdark death metal umlaut dystopia.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
There are no good guys. There is no heroic aversion of tragedy. There's no wonderment of beauty. There's just rain, dirt, nihilism.
And the end of the world, which is imminent and may happen randomly. Almost at any point.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, you got to get through all the dark prophecies first, right?
Oh yeah, there are. I think it's like 6 or 7. I mean, you could certainly house through it very easily.
Wait. Let me pull up, and it'll be interesting to see if I have a different view of it, because I cheaped out and read the bare bones edition, right?
Mm-hmm.
And y'all have like the fancy version.
Yeah, so the style of MÖRK BORG was especially when it came out in 2018. This is a fairly recent game. It was so distinct and unique that it received a lot of praise, obviously, for its graphic design, but also a lot of criticism. The common joke being that it's an unreadable mess. So they eventually released a bare bones edition, which is just plain text, black text on white PDF, and I have both versions with me. I have a print version of the regular book and then the bare bones edition. So the rules we're referring to are the calendar of Nurshel. They do the yes, thank you.
Or Necrubel. Sorry, that's a C, not an R.
Necrubel.
It's not an unreasonable mess. It does make fairly heavy use of black letter style lettering, but the body text itself is perfectly readable. And I have received much, I have paid for much harder to read role-playing games than this that thought they were perfectly legible. I'm not going to name any, but the kind of game that uses Caslon Antique as a body text font. Hint, never do that. It isn't. It's a display font. Anyway, I can sideline here. I'm not going to. Back to Necrubel.
Yes. So there are miseries.
Yes. All right. So I thought you had to get through all the miseries to get to 7-7, but no, you only have to get through 6 miseries before you get to 7-7. Let me read Misery 7-7. All praise Yet Sabunek, the underworld's nightmare, the black disk which stands before the sun. All praise Verhu, beaming with delight. All praise the fire which burns all, and the darkness shall swallow the darkness.
And the command is, the game and your lives end here, burn the book. Which is pretty cool. I would like to know if anyone has actually ever burnt the book, particularly if they've ever burnt the PDF, because that could get expensive.
How much? Well, the book's, it's not a cheap book, right? Because it's a
40,
nice
40
book.
bucks.
Yeah,
40
but
bucks
it's
for 96 pages.
But it is
Yeah.
beautiful.
Hardback?
Yeah,
It's
is
a hardback, yeah.
It's a
With a little
hardback in full
bookmark.
color. Full color throughout. And yeah, okay, so...
Is it full color? It's several colors. I don't know if it's full color.
Well, color throughout, let us
Yeah.
say.
Some pages are full color.
I liked the calendar.
Yeah.
But-
No, I did. Well, to explain the miseries a little more, you get to choose how long your campaign will be. You can have years of pain to the end is nigh, and you roll a die. The years of pain is a D100, end is nigh is a D2. When you roll, and then there's sliding scales in between. You go D20, D10, D6. When you roll a 1 on the die, you add a misery. And each misery changes the game world in some way. You roll on a D66 table, basically like percentiles, only like 1 D6 is the 10s and 1 is the 1s. And then that changes the world. So like 4-1 is for 5 days and 5 nights. The mother shall be the cloak of demons. And so they're very vague. There's no mechanics. The GM has to figure out what that actually means. And then once you get to the 7th mystery, yes, the world
We
ends.
should we should each read one of these in our most sepulchral tones.
All right.
All
Do you
right.
want to go first, Greg?
And the blood cough shall spread like fire across the wastelands of the drought.
James, go.
And hunger shall come among you. You shall take roots and pull children from the breast. The goat shall prey upon the goat. Oh, the mass king and the mass queen shall live to dust. Their wretched corpses are devoured by wolves.
Yeah.
That's a little more Monty Python than sepulchral there, dude.
Well, I mean, that's the
But-
thing is despite the style of this book, reading interviews with the developers, they run it for laughs. Like
Sure.
there is this heavy metal like aesthetic, but I bet the game I ran was very closer to a Monty Python like style humor than like. I mean, nobody took it seriously. Everyone was having fun with it. Yeah.
Yes, this is, to me, this is my key impression of MÖRK BORG. Is if you give someone a setting that says every day we fall farther from God's grace and I'm here for it, it is my theory. Okay, so let's talk about bleed again, which we have talked about in previous podcasts. Bleed is the empathy you form with fictional characters, and such that when something bad happens to them, you feel the shape of the badness. And when something good happens to them, you feel a reflection of their joy. And MÖRK BORG seems to me to be deliberately designed in its tone to have bleed be something that happens to the characters and not the players. It's an anti-bleed game. It's like, this is going to be so over the top, so hugely overblown. You will never achieve any kind of emotional resonance with these characters. Come on. You are just going to fuck around, kill stuff, take treasure, and, probably die of typhus that you caught in a pit trap.
Yeah, and it's not just that the characters are going to be short-lived, and I'm not sure they necessarily are. I think the game cheats out on that. It's the fact that character generation starts with generating your equipment. Your equipment is literally more important than you are, than your character is. And the game makes that point literally from the get-go. It's extraordinary. I spent a while wondering, why have they done that? It's, because the characters are completely peripheral. They're tissue paper. They don't matter, apart from, they're a collection of tropes. They don't grow. There's no mechanics, or even suggestions that your characters should change and, as people and develop and get stories or stuff.
The randomly rolled monkey that ignores but loves you probably is going to last longer in this game than you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did we generate Mork Borglings? Did we generate characters for this game? I did.
We played through the sample adventure.
Oh, Rot Black Sludge.
Rotback Sludge, yes. Which I have opinions on. I mean, let's talk about the game before we talk about the adventure.
Let's talk about the game before we talk about the adventure.
Yes. The adventure does some things that I think that I wasn't quite expecting from the rules.
Oh. So, okay.
I mean, it is an OSR game. It categorizes itself as an OSR game. It is categorized by others as an OSR game. The style of roleplay is very traditional. This is GM and players. There is no, you roll the dice to see if you succeed or fail. There's no such thing as falling forward. There's no narrative mechanics as such. There's one meta currency, which is omens, which we will come to later. But yeah, it reminded me a lot of original D&D, white box D&D, in as much as there's a huge amount missing here. If this was your first role-playing game, I am not sure you would actually be able to work out exactly what you're meant to do with it. And that was the problem with a lot of the OD&D players. You hear, various players, I have friends, oh yes, I bought, I was 12, I was 14, I saved up my pocket money, bought this amazing thing, puzzled through it, kind of cobbled a game together out of it and loved it. What we never hear from are the people who bought the thing, couldn't work out how to play it, put it on the shelf and forgot about it.
But this is crap.
There's an awful lot of mint edition copies of the white box out there in collectors' hands. So I think that happened quite a lot. So Mork Borg is for people who have played, and I think played quite a lot of role-playing games, who are jaded, because this is a palate cleanser.
Let me throw in an overly elaborate metaphor that occurred to me as I was thinking about this. I'm like, okay, so imagine you were living in a more advanced space-using society where there were several space stations orbiting Earth, and there was now a market for craft that could get between space stations without ever having to launch off the planet or re-enter and land. They're just cross-orbital shuttles. And I'm like, Mork Borg is like that because, a lot of other games feel like they have to be able to take off and land from the gravity well of total ignorance.
They literally have to do the heavy lifting.
Yes.
Sorry, you were probably about to say that and I stole your punchline. I apologize.
No, honestly, I hadn't thought of that punchline, but this is just...
This is why I get the big bucks.
Yes. Yeah, James. It's not, we didn't just bring you along for your charming accent, but, I mean, and yeah, if you had never read a role-playing game before, you would read this and think it was the ravings of an unmedicated schizophrenic. But because you have the framework of decades of probably playing Dungeons and Dragons, which certainly all three of us have, you can read this and you have in your mind the key that unlocks the cipher. And because it is built on this gigantic pile of shared assumptions, it can be very, very efficient in its presentation. I mean, the bare bones is 76 pages and has optional rules. It's assuming that you know how to do this. It's like that old meme about, well, how do you draw an owl? Well, you start with a sphere, and then you put in the eyes and the beak, and then you just draw the rest of the owl.
Yeah, it's true. I think one of the reasons why Mork Borg is so successful in that it is, we talk about like graphic design, and one of the reasons why I think it is really appealing to so many people is because of its look, of its graphic design. Graphic design is not just, hey, look at me, buy me, but also like informational. It is like to guide you to the right information, and also I think in this case motivational. I think one of the reasons why it has I think there are going to be a lot of people who have never played a role playing game and see this in a game store, and it's so weird and unique and different that it will motivate them to play and to learn this thing because it's so different.
I don't know that that's. I don't know that it's going to have a lot of appeal for people who have never played a role-playing game before. For them,
I think if
this
you're
might be
into
a little-
metal, yeah, I don't know. I think
might be a little alienating if you're really into metal. But I mean,
or
can
that
you
aesthetic, like, yeah.
can you grab more? Can you grab MÖRK BORG and just play it with, as a patient zero of gaming? I don't think so.
I think you can. I think people
okay.
have. Because I think also now we live in the age of the internet, so someone could buy this book, read through it a bit, and then like, okay, how do I play this?
What
And
the
then
hell is
search-
this?
Yeah, exactly.
People can
and then
look
search
elsewhere. They can find stuff online. But there was a line that we used in. Have either of you guys seen Violence, which we published in I think the year 2000 by Designer X, who's actually Greg
Designer
Stickin,
X.
Which it was one of our new style games. It was only 32 pages, and it's basically it's a parody of D&D. It's a game in which you tool up with weapons and armor, whatever you can get. You run down corridors, kick down doors, kill everything on the other side, steal their stuff, go on next door, next to brutally murder people, and it's set in modern day New York. And that, when Greg pitched it to me with almost exactly that line, I laughed so hard that apple juice came out of my nose. And I had to commission it. But there's a line in there, because it has the custom, because it's a parody of conventional role-playing games, it has the what is a role-playing game section. And Greg just says, brother, if you need to ask, this is not the place to start. And that's kind of how I feel about MÖRK BORG. This is not, I mean, I'm sure people could learn to roleplay from it. I'm not sure it's the best, it's a good place to learn to roleplay. But I think it could be possible. In terms of the typography and the layout, I mean, as I said, it's not unreadable by any means. It is not like any other role-playing game. It is very... Well, there's one double-page spread that just has 3 weapons and their stats on it. That's all pictures of 3 weapons and and how much damage they do. That's all, and it's brilliant. It's very funny.
What are the 3 weapons? Says the poor man operating on the bare bones.
It is the flail, the crossbow, and the Zweihand.
The Zweihander!
With an umlaut, yeah, of course.
With an umlaut, and I think and the lettering is huge, and you have to say Zweihander because it's the weapon that does the most damage. So there is an element of this kind of being
there I see it. Yep.
It's joking about the certainly when I started playing D&D, I wanted the weapon that did the most damage. But it reminded me slightly of, have I talked about ray gun before? I don't know if either of you guys remember ray gun.
No, I don't know ray gun. When you were talking about Violence, I was thinking about Power Kill. Was that another new?
That was Tynes, yeah. That was we printed that on the flip side of Puppet Land, which was the meta RPG.
And the plot of Power Kill is you just play D&D, and then at the end of every session, add a scene where a psychiatrist is talking to delusional patients who believe they are those characters, but who actually invaded a low-income housing complex and did everything the D&D characters did.
And it's 3 pages, and it's brilliant because it's Tynes.
I mean, one other older game I've seen this MÖRK BORG compared to is Whole, Human Occupied Land.
Yep. Oh man.
Yep.
Aesthetically,
a treasure.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, the whole was handwritten, right? There was no.
And it's Hull because it's got an umlaut.
Hull.
Is it? No, it's not. It's a bar. It's a bar over the O because I remember we couldn't.
Right.
I printed a review of it, and there was no character in the font that we were using, and I actually had to go into a font editor and make one. Such was my diligence back in the early 90s,
would be
before I just went, fuck it. Exactly.
Human
yes. I think they wrote
landfill.
most of it late night in a Dairy Queen somewhere.
Yep.
That
tracks.
Extraordinary, beautifully self-aware game. Very, very funny. I mean, another game that will make you laugh so hard that whatever you're drinking comes out of your nose.
Not sure it's playable.
I would agree. I don't think there's enough. I know people who have tried and have got something out of it because there's enough in there. But it felt like a kind of almost an extended joke about role-playing games rather than an actual playable game. And I'm not sure they designed it to be playable. But
what is the line from Puppet Land? Anything can be fun for an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but there was then they did a supplement, buttery wholesomeness, and there were rules in that I think were trying to make it a playable RPG, and it didn't feel right. And I don't really know anyone who took it seriously.
Well, again, we're back to my point the sort of South Parkish. No, you will never. This is just way too over the top. Feeling things is bad. Maybe this is unfair to MÖRK BORG. But I do feel that it has, intentionally or sort of unconsciously reached this. No, you are not going to connect to your character the way you might to a Delta Green character, where the whole point is to make you feel for this poor bastard who is doing the unspeakable to avoid the unthinkable. There was somebody, do you remember Toy Box Tribes? It was a game where you are all, toys that live under the bed, and I remember hearing about somebody's session of this. This was like 2 Forge designer guys who decided they were going to play Toy Box Tribes, and one of them was describing it, and he's like, yeah. And we just, even without speaking to each other, decided that we were going to take this so seriously, and that this was going to be the toys of a child whose parents were getting divorced, and that the stakes of this game, the stakes of the adventure are, can we help this child process his parents' divorce without having some kind of emotional breakdown? And he's like, it was so sad and intense and amazing. And I'm like, MÖRK BORG's the opposite of that. It is, and that's fine, because I'm like, not everything has to be a 4-course buffet of emotional devastation.
Yeah, you can revel in your player character's pain. I mean, you generate them with horrible, horrible things already wrong with them. I'm trying to find the list.
Yeah, you do have like bad physical traits, bad habits. Like there's a
bad
lot.
habit. Do you have to start with a bad habit?
I think it's
optional.
Like
tables.
I think so, yeah.
Like there are optional tables. Like character classes are optional. Like you can just start a MÖRK BORG character with 1 hit points, a few items, and that's it. No magic powers.
That's what I did.
I
I rolled up. He's just some jagoff with a sack, a monkey, a crossbow, and medium armor.
Yep.
The bad habits, and there are good jokes in this game. On page 40, roll a d20 for bad habits. You can wind up with a nihilist. You insist on telling everyone you are a nihilist and explaining why.
Excellent.
And I'm like, yup!
Yeah, and there's references as well. Part of the equipment you can generate is a small but vicious dog.
Small but vicious dog!
That's a Warhammer Fantasy roleplay joke. One of the characters we generated for my test session, I'm trying to find exactly the reference for what was wrong with his face. He basically didn't have one. Yeah, Rotting Face wears a mask, which is on the Broken Bodies table, and then on the Bad Habits table, rolled, you pick your nose so deep it bleeds. And the combination of the two, it's, and this is a character generation. This is not a character that you or anyone else is ever going to love, but you can have fun with them.
I think that kind of illustrates the main point. I think the fun in MÖRK BORG is that MÖRK BORG is a playground. It is a metal playground in which for you to try out fun characters and fun ideas.
Yes, and your character is essentially an action figure. It's not you. You're never going to have any rapport or bleed with them.
Yes, you are just going to break the arms off and laugh.
Yep.
I also really liked stress response is aesthetic display. The worse things get, the fancier you need to be. I'm like,
oh god,
yes,
our flag means death, isn't it?
I would play the shit out of that.
Exactly, yeah. I know when I ran the game, like I had one player who played, I forgot the name of it, but like there's a couple of classes you can get it's free downloads from the website, and one was the equivalent of a bard and was, you know, like wailing horrible songs to doom things. And then there's one that was like literally the druid knockoff, which was you turn into a wolf and maul people, and then the core class, the esoteric hermit. And yeah, they had a great time. Like we had a blast doing that. And I think that's sort of the fun of it, because MÖRK BORG, I think, encapsulates sort of like the OSR principle. I'm not sure, but like there is this idea in the OSR and the NSR and for some reason 5e D&D does as well, called the rulings not rules, which is as Greg, you put it, like GM fiat with a nice ring to it. Yeah.
GM fiat. I've also heard it called Viking hat GMing. Which I'm trying to remember the gag with the GM wearing the Viking hat, and my rules are final, and if you disagree, there will be symbolic dominance mounting. And it's bad.
Well, I mean, whatever makes them happy in Sweden, I guess.
Yes, this was, okay, so what's it do, I think we've covered.
Yeah.
And how does it do it? And my notes are primal D20 and GM fiat.
It is, as James mentioned earlier, it is player facing. Players make all the attack rolls, and it's a set target number for pretty much all attacks. It's like a DC 12 on a D20, plus or minus your stat bonus. You do have a meta currency, omens.
Yeah,
which refresh like every time you sleep, I think, and you can use them for a lot of interesting benefits. So even though you can literally roll a D8 for hit points and start with 1 hit point, you have a bit of survivability.
One of our player characters did. He had 1 hit point.
Sweet.
And survived, because there's 2 things. It comes on like this is a bloody brutal game, and your characters are just going to die in the first 10 minutes. Then there are some almost impossibly generous armor bonuses. That your armor detracts from reduces damage, as does your shield, and you can throw away your shield. Basically, you can go, oh, my shield absorbs the entire blow. You lose the shield,
shatters,
but it saves your life. It's a get out of jail free. And then you've got the omens, which are, I think it's a choice of 6, and they are essentially fate points. They get out of jail free cards, and you can replenish them multiple times in the course of an adventure if you want to. Which indeed my players did. It's like, oh yeah, we're just going to have a rest here. We're going to go back to the room with the beds. We're going to have a rest. What, the one that had the skeletons? Yes, that one. We knocked the skeletons off the bed. We have a rest.
Wait, how do you recover omens? I'm looking at the rules, and it's like, oh, you start with 1 or 2, and
page 37.
Well, page 37 says omens. Oh, regain that many omens after resting at least 6 hours.
Yep.
Okay.
Use omens to deal maximum damage with an attack. Reroll a dice roll, yours or someone else's, which is very generous. Lower damage dealt to you by D6. Neutralize a crit or a fumble, or lower a test difficulty rating by 4. Lower.
Make it real easy. And okay, and so something I remember from my early D&D games is, when we were all depleted and out of spells, it's like, okay, time to sleep, and we would just go into a room and crash out, and that, we'd go through the motions of putting up guards and whatnot, but the GM the dungeon master. Oh wait, by using the words dungeon master, did I just admit that this role-playing podcast is owned by Hasbro? Sorry. Edit that out.
It is. It has not been published yet, so yeah.
There may be a difference if you put a space in it or not. I think they've got one trademarked and possibly not the other, so we might be all right.
I'm just limboing under that. But our game runner,
the referee,
never was like, okay, you have been running around murdering people in this enclosed space for a half hour, but no, you're going to sleep for 8 hours and no one's going to look for you. No one's going to kick the door down. No one's going to be knocking, say, hey, Gruthank the Overslayer, are you in there? We've been having some trouble down in the Gematorium, and we just wanted to make sure you and your family were all right.
Yeah. That is a typical D&D trope that is still carries over to MÖRK BORG. Because it is a game of having fun more than anything else. Like it's a very minimal rule set. In fact, the end of the book has like a 1-page rule summary, which covers pretty much everything except like the names of what your exact class powers and scrolls do. Instead of spells, esoteric hermits or anyone who has a scroll can cast a spell from that scroll if they make a presence check. And then everything else, like all social things, are handled with reaction table. Morale is handled with a single 2d6 reaction table, and it's a very fast system once you get into it. So it's easy to adjudicate and make up rules. Another thing is also player characters do get a agility test to avoid damage, so enemies just hit you unless you dodge out of the way, and then if they hit you, you get your armor to subtract from it. So
player facing roles. Players make all the rolls. In combat, there are times where the game runner, I can't see. I'm flipping through to see if there's an actual term the game uses for the referee.
Page 33, getting better. The game master decides when the character should be improved. But it's initiative is just a roll d6, 3 or less. The enemies go first. 4 through 6, PCs go first. Agility plus a d6 for the individual initiative, or it's very fast. It's very easy to teach to people, at least experienced role players. People
Now,
are used to RPGs.
all right. So my question, looking at the extreme reliance on, your GM will just figure something out, and the grim dark setting, I'm like, is grim dark the best tone for reliance on GM fiat? Because when it's grim dark and something you don't like happens, and your GM's like, oh yeah, your character's leg is just severed. You're just bleeding out everywhere. You're just screaming and pissing yourself, and you're going to be dead in seconds. If that was in a tone where where that was shocking, you might be more tempted to push back. But in MÖRK BORG, it's just like, well, that's MÖRK BORG, baby. Why would I think my leg wouldn't get severed?
Well, I think part of it is also like this is a game that like assumes you're going to be using a lot of random tables in it. Like there are a ton of random tables, not just for PCs, but for adventure hooks, dungeon hooks. There's random encounter tables in the default adventure.
When was the last time you encountered a random encounter table in a modern adventure? I can't remember seeing one in decades.
Okay.
Well, they're all the rage in OSR and NSR games. Let me tell you. I mean, I kind of want to mention the difference, I think, between OSR and NSR. And I think this is more NSR. And this is a very pedantic point, but like OSR in general means old school Renaissance.
James and I have certainly never made our pedantic points about layout or use of the future conditional.
It's true. I'm
is
breaking
there any
new ground
future
here.
conditional in this, Greg?
There is
a world with no future, so I'm sure I don't feel like there would be.
I mean, they did
work
pretty
into
well.
one. No.
They made it to page 17 in the bare bones edition before using it. I'm like reading Rot Black Sludge, and I'm like, this is so written to be fast and efficient and not have any frills or fluff, and but it still uses needless future conditional 6 times. Sorry, I interrupted you there, Ross. I'm just gonna let you say your thing here.
So OSR stands in general for old school Renaissance or revival. And it's basically, this started about 10 years ago, I think, with games, Labyrinth Lord and Mazes of Minotaur and Lamentations of Flame Princess and just dozens of games meant to emulate like role-playing games in the late 70s to like early 80s, like the white box. And OSR game, a lot of these sort of first wave, from my observation, we're trying to slavishly imitate old D&D, but make it weirder or more quote unquote adult, by putting more boobs and killing and ritual sacrifice in it.
Don't hold back, Ross. Tell us how you really feel.
Yeah. But like Then they started changing. People were wanting to actually do game design innovations. And the game that really made me notice this was Dungeon Crawl Classics. I think I mentioned before on the podcast. It had really interesting rules, and also like I mentioned, the luck mechanic in our meta currencies episode. Also like the idea of the peasant funnel, which is an entirely new idea for me, where you had 4 level 0 peasants. Every player had them. So you had like 20 peasants running through a dungeon. Any peasant that actually made it got a level in a character class, and that was how you were supposed to start your campaign. And but these games are taking, like, they want to have that same feel, that gameplay feel of like old, like late 70s early 80s stuff, but have, you know, different rule system, like MÖRK BORG player facing. Like OSR games I don't think would ever do that. They would always have player rolling and GM rolling for attack rolls and all this other stuff. But MÖRK BORG has meta currencies. It's player facing. It has some real interest, like some game design stuff from this century, and they want to get the feel of it. So stripping down the rules that they don't like, you know, like grenade scatter diagrams and things like that, and like things that they do like weird random tables that make the game feel very chaotic and unstable and unpredictable. Yeah.
Is Dueling Fops one of these? Did I accidentally design something into a
No,
movement?
that's a story game. No.
Okay.
Dueling Fops is definitely not.
Thank God, man.
You go to ballrooms, not dungeons, and Dueling Fops. So yeah, that is a very different beast. But yeah, they're all about dungeon crawling. Yeah.
I do love me a random table. Random tables are great.
Exactly.
And there is no shortage of them here.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's fun to have a random table.
I'm looking at the corpse plundering continued table right now. So
exactly. And so I think it's to get that feeling of playing a role-playing game and not knowing what's going to happen and not caring and just driving your character like a stolen car and making memorable, unique experiences that can never happen. Like MÖRK BORG doesn't want to emulate like fantasy literature or movies or anything. It wants to be itself and make a different narrative experience than like reading a fantasy novel or listening to a metal album. It wants
to emulate the sensation of listening to Godspeed You Black Emperor.
No, that's way too slow. Like this is more,
I think it wants to replicate the way that you felt playing D&D the first time you played it.
Yes.
When you were 14 and everything was new and really exciting.
I think that sense of play is really important too, because I know we're just focusing on the main game, but like there is a thriving market of third-party content for MÖRK BORG, and I kind of want to get some of it because like there's something I saw in Exalted Funeral recently, which is a distributor of zines and other RPG stuff. They also did the Monty Python RPG Kickstarter last year, but I'll just read you this one thing: the cross stitch.
Holy shit! Yeah. I just noticed that it says how to pronounce the title. All this time I've been making fun of it, and it says it's MÖRK BORG.
MÖRK BORG.
MÖRK BORG. Oh, I apologize. My apologies to Pelle Nilsson. Man, have I been being an asshole all this time, guys?
It was a error made in good faith.
I'm not sure it was, Ross.
The Cross Stitch is a complete folk adventure for MÖRK BORG that can be played as a one-shot or part of the campaign. It uses a unique time loop mechanic that ratchets up the tension every turn with accompanying tables and charts to help track the goings-on of Sonderfall's 14-plus denizens, a town that has disappeared and is coming back. So there's a time loop in it. So it's groundhog. Judging from that description, I'm guessing it's like a Groundhog's Day thing, but in a, fantasy village and figuring out what's going on. So it doesn't matter if you kill everybody in the village; they're going to come back in the next loop. So like I've seen a lot of other adventures and material for MÖRK BORG that has really interesting game design ideas, and it's very easy to create new content for it. So I think that's very appealing to it.
Well, all right. And you sent me a interview with the creators where they're like, we never wanted to make any money. We never planned to make any money of this. We never thought it would succeed. Nobody in Sweden liked it. We're shocked. We're selling the books for basically what they cost to print. How much of that is, what's going on with this? Are the creators not driving Formula One cars made of cocaine now? Are they not getting rich off of MÖRK BORG?
They do have wildly generous, basically third-party license agreements, which are all up on the website. Anyone can use them. Anyone can pretty much publish stuff for the game without approval, and I think without paying them any money. But of course, that then drives sales of the basic games and the actual supplements.
Yeah.
So I assume they are doing well out of it.
Mm-hmm. Also, they got all that socialized healthcare and whatnot, so they have a safety net. Must be nice.
Hey, it never helped the British RPG scene.
Oh well, all right, fair enough.
I'm sorry, I was laughing so hard I didn't hear what James said.
It never helped the British RPG scene. Not particularly, anyway.
Yeah.
Ow.
Though arguably Slay Industries, I think, was written but mostly by a bunch of guys on their, with their dole money, and they got a small grant from the government for a small business grant or something, because they had a suit that one of them put on and went to an interview. I exaggerate, but only very slightly.
Sure.
And yeah, it was done very, very much on a shoestring. And if you look at the original Slay Industries rulebook, really does not look it. The only cheap thing was the binding, which was not their fault. It was one of those exploding rulebooks, which is one of the reasons Hogshead took it on, actually, and did a reprint, because we knew our copies wouldn't explode, and everyone who loved the game, their copies had exploded. So we were fairly sure there'd be a market for it.
Yeah.
I digress.
Yeah.
You do.
But that was another game that was kind of almost gratuitously dark, and it was hard to understand or hard to work out if the creators actually meant it that way, or if it was tongue in cheek.
I think there is just this great appeal of games that are incredibly thematically dark, and then the whole fun is not treating it seriously, because it's not just this. It's also like Slay Industry. The elephant in the room is obviously Warhammer, which is the grimmest of darks, and very few people take it excessively seriously. So
yes, but then that's a book full of puns as well. There's silly jokes in it.
Yeah.
And what the grim dark does is it narrows your expectations tremendously. And it's like, no, we are not gonna do a love story in this, or if we are, it is gonna be played for laughs, and those laughs will be very crude and fart based.
Mm-hmm.
It
I think it's
shuts
catharsis.
off a lot of stuff. Yeah. Well, yeah.
I think
it's a kind of catharsis.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is whistling past the graveyard, and you need to have a graveyard to whistle past.
Yeah, and that's what the world we live in is grim enough with everything that's going on. To be faced with a world that's even grimmer and to be able to not take it seriously is enormously enlightening. It's a relief. It's as you say, it is cathartic.
Comparing the aesthetic of MÖRK BORG to, say, like actually fit that D&D, I think is very informative, because D&D, if anything, presents a very clean, not quite wholesome, but like I would say sanitized appearance to like adventuring and questing and like fighting monsters and dungeons. Everything is very painterly and illustrated, and to MÖRK BORG, it's like it's dark, dangerous, and dirty. It is
no one shits their pants in Dungeons and Dragons.
Exactly.
Not in Hasbro's Dungeons and Dragons.
I can't stop laughing. Is there any other?
Yeah. I mean, Pathfinder does that to a degree too. Like they kind of follow the D&D model, I think, at least in terms of
a legitimate aspect of fantasy is this sort of beauty and wonderment, and you can have a session in a lot of games where it's like, okay, now you come to the Palace of the Butterfly King, and if your GM is really good at evoking stuff and has a bunch of splendid art to show you, it's this magical moment. But MÖRK BORG is like, nope, not doing that. No Yes album covers here. Only Slayer album covers. So yeah, I mean, have we reached how people play? Because I'm like, bashy smashy in the moral void.
I was going to talk a little bit about the sample adventure.
The sample adventure.
The sample adventure, the black sludge, which again felt like an adventure out of the late 70s or the early 80s. There are massive holes in it. It's a dungeon bash. The game sets up this extraordinary baroque mad world that's coming to the end and then goes, and here's a dungeon. And that's basically, and there's all the things in the world that changes, the prophecies, all the rest of it. You don't notice. You're going to be in a dungeon. It is unsure how, except for the sense of encroaching doom within the greater background. But none of that's actually going to impinge on you. So the sample adventure was set in a place called the Accursed Den. There's a quest giver who only exists in sample text, in read aloud text. You can't even ask him any questions because no answers are supplied. Why is it called the Accursed Den? I don't know. My players asked me. It's because it's a den. And you probably, I think the dens are cursed, or people that go in I don't know. But it's old school as well. Literally, this is not a major spoiler. There's the entrance, and I'll do the first two rooms. The entrance, it's just a kind of cavern. There's a lit oil lantern. Every room has lit lanterns in it. It is never explained who actually goes around the dungeon putting the oil in the lanterns to keep them lit.
It's probably one of the twisted guards.
Possibly, but there's areas they can't really get. Anyway, there's a small stream of water and black violet butterflies flap haplessly over the water. There's a little note. The only note for the room, for the kind of GM advice, the stuff that you don't read out to the players, is if you eat the butterflies, it will heal D6 hit points. And it's just, why? Why would you eat the butterflies? It struck me immediately at this point of text adventures where you're trying to work out what it is you're supposed to do with the butterflies, and you'd just be typing in verb-noun combinations until you finally hit the right verb. You eat the butterflies. What happens? Do you run out of butterflies? How many butterflies are there? How many chances do you get? You just keep trying stuff. Eventually, they heal hit points. And there actually is a role-playing game that does this. Jared Sorensen's Parsley. I don't know if you've ever seen this.
I've never seen this one.
Parsley It's tiny. It's like, I think each one is almost literally printed on a sheet of paper folded cleverly. But it's basically the player or players is the player of a text adventure and the GM is the computer. And it's...
Wait, so this is spelled Parsley, P-A-R-S-E-L-Y. Wow.
Yeah. It's a great concept. It's really fun. It's great. It's crystalline. It's perfect in what it is. And he's done a whole bunch of them. But it felt a bit like that. It's, my players just breezed straight, assumed the butterflies were set dressing and just walked straight past them. Mm-hmm. Then you walk into a dining hall, and there's a bearded man at the far end of the table, skin ashen grey, eyes dark, dressed in a dusty old cloak. This is the only real spoiler. If everyone sits down at the table, the man comes to his senses and erupts with rumbling laughter. He tells stories of old for a few minutes and then slowly and irrevocably regresses into his own world again. Who is he? Never explained. What purpose does he hold? Not explained. Does he have any secrets? Not explained. He's just there.
James, he tells stories of old.
Yeah.
I mean, what more do you need? It's of old stories,
My players spent some time trying to get some information out of him or work out who he was or what relevance he was to the plot. But then my players, they're not story gamers, they're not modern role players, but they have grown up on narrative games where you expect the adventure to tell you a story. And there is a story within this one, but not really... Not one in which there's stuff that's in there just kind of for colour. There's monsters that just kind of exist to be monsters. Why would you have a room that's, with skeleton guards that just leap up and try and kill? It felt really old school. And if you're not ready
where there
for
are
that,
things that are just arbitrary.
Completely arbitrary. And it did not work for my players because that was not what they were expecting. I think if I'd said, this is going to think back to the early 80s, and they would have looked at me and gone, we were not alive. they might have enjoyed it a bit more if they got, okay, this is primitive dungeoning. But then there's also a level in which I felt there's an expectation that you're just expected to bash this dungeon in the same way you would in Violence or something like that. You're supposed to rampage into the room and either kill everything there and take its stuff, or work out what triggers what's going to try and kill you and then kill it and take its stuff. There's an awful lot of stuff that only becomes available from searching corpses or searching, ransacking a room. It's very old school. We enjoyed it. We did not enjoy it nearly as much as I thought it was going to. The dark humor did not really come through.
You sounded like you didn't really, like you weren't certain whether you enjoyed it.
There's a couple of extraordinary moments. There's a thing with two skeletons on top of a pillar of stone in the pit of the rock black sludge. And the skeletons are just up there playing violins. And that's all they do. And occasionally you can, you're in another room and I was able to know you can hear the violin. The violin music becomes stronger or becomes faster or something like that. And I had a bit of fun with that. But it's a beautiful image and there's a lovely piece of art for it. Never explained who put them there, what they're there for. They're never used within the text of the adventure to amplify anything or create anything thematic. It's just a beautiful, beautiful image. And that might be enough. But again, this is a role-playing thing. You're within it. The players did not look at this and go, this is just a beautiful thing that is there for our enjoyment. They wanted to work out what they were for. And there is no reason.
If I had been playing in this dungeon, I would have attempted to throw something at them or shoot them with my crossbow. And it doesn't explain what happens if you do that.
No.
What I'm reminded of is something Ken Hite put in Wild Talents, which is built for superhero gaming. And he had these gauges you could adjust to get different types of comic book experiences. And one of them was the blue gauge, which was the beautiful and the pointless. And it's like in a high blue game, and the example he gave was Wonder Woman's invisible plane. And there's it's like, is there an origin story for Wonder Woman's invisible plane, or how or why, or is it just this amazing thing? And and I said that, you're not going to go to the court of the Butterfly King and see these beautiful things that will give you one of the rewards of fantasy fiction, which is this moment of, oh, wow, that's really cool and pretty, and the Yes album cover experience. And so maybe this is, maybe the skeletons are just the gothy death metal version of that, is that, no, there are some things that are beautiful for no reason.
Yeah.
They are just present to provide mystery and awe.
Yeah. Wonder Woman's invisible plane, I don't know who created it, but I do know that it was in there almost from the start. It appeared within 3 months of the first appearance of Wonder Woman. It's goes right back to, and it is a bizarre thing.
It is. I think this sort of illustrates like the OSR sort of like philosophy in a lot of ways, or the NSR philosophy, whatever you want to call it, which is to say like adventures, everything is a framework, and the assumption is that most GMs will try to house rule it or modify it to suit their own games. Like, there's nothing stopping you from giving the quest giver a lot of exposition, and oh yeah, by the way, there's some cool butterflies. They're tasty. You should try. Bring me some back of those. You add them. You could have the violin skeletons actually talk and take requests. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. But the flip side of it is to create interesting things that make you think, or like, oh wow, that's cool, without actually having like a game purpose in them. This is I've read tons of adventures that do this in the OSR philosophy, from the last 10 years. Some of them badly, like there's a grandfather clock in this cabin that is a world-shaking artifact with time powers, and the PCs mess with it, the campaign's basically over. But there's no indication that if they touch this grandfather clock, everything's going to be destroyed. Haha! That there are bad implementations.
Gotcha.
Yeah, basically,
it's the tomb of it's the annihilation mouth in Tomb of Horrors.
But it's not even lampposted like the it's not in a dangerous. It's just in an abandoned cabin, but like that.
I
think
have nothing
that's,
in my past experience to make me expect that tinkering with a grandfather clock in an abandoned cabin is going to destroy the cosmos.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that sort of like appeals to the hardcore MÖRK BORG player, is that it is weird, unusual, and different. Like, it doesn't all have to make sense. I mean, because of also the chaotic nature of the game with all the random tables, it's never going to like narratively all fit together. There's going to be like this narrative dissonance, in it, because it's like, well, where did that random encounter come from? Why didn't they attack us while we were sleepy? Like, why? Like, don't worry about it. It's just vibes. Like, you're just
there is no why the world is dying.
Exactly.
Yes.
Like, it's all absurd anyway. Yeah.
You are gonna come out of this dungeon and possibly discover that prophecy 6.5 has come to pass. The earth shall wane, bringing black serpents forth from within the earth. You're gonna get out. There's gonna be black snakes everywhere, and you're gonna be like, dudes, when we went in there, I don't remember all these black snakes. Do you remember these black snakes?
Exactly.
And they'll just be like, dude, it was a prophecy. Get over it.
Yeah. And again, it's old school. You start the game at the entrance to the, you're supposed to be convicted criminals, and this is your last chance. You've got to go in and rescue a hostage out of this is not a spoiler, it's in the intro. But you start at the entrance to the dungeon, and the game finishes when you leave the dungeon. There's nothing about actually where the dungeon even is. I saw something just this afternoon going, oh no, it's in the abandoned ruins of someone's old palace. I'm pretty sure that's not in the main text. But it's the adventure in the rulebook. It's a template for this. When you do that, what you're saying is this is the way that you set out a MÖRK BORG adventure, or an adventure for this particular system. So people will take it as a template. And while there's some really interesting stuff in there, it didn't work for me. I have to say, we had a bit of fun with it, but I'm going to say I grew out of this style of adventuring really pretty fast as a teen, and going back once or twice was quite nostalgic. But I don't want to live there.
That's fair. I think it's something like I didn't grow up with that. Like my first RPGs were Palladium and AD&D, which is definitely not too complex to be considered old school. I think AD&D is that goes wacko. But I played another adventure that was a free PDF download from the website, the Goblin Grinder, and that actually had a more controversial element of the setting, which is the goblins in MÖRK BORG are like an existential threat because if you read the goblin entry, if a goblin attacks you, whether or not it hits or not, the act of it attacking you curses your character to become a goblin unless you kill that specific goblin. So a goblin can throw a rock at you, run away, and hide, and then in a matter of days you are cursed to become a goblin. And the adventure is about like someone has a machine called the Goblin Grinder that takes human corpses and makes them into living goblins, and is trying to take over the town that way. Like the alchemist has gone mad, so you have to find the Goblin Grinder and shut it down. And I added a lot of elements to it. I added characters like, oh, let's find a merchant to buy stuff. Okay, well, I guess there's a merchant now, and maybe this merchant wants the Goblin Grinder for himself for nefarious reasons. And the players wound up like befriending the slime in the alchemist lab and having it gain sentience and attacking the Goblin Grinder for them. And because I was like, why not? Yeah, all right, well, it's collaborative. If you want to make a friend from this dangerous monster, you have a bard with you. Yeah, you can sing to it and convince the non-intelligent slime to become intelligent and to sing the song that will end the world.
Presence.
Yeah, exactly. I think there was a couple of crits on a presence check or two. So
And I can see it. It would be so fun to be the GM and you're controlling this slime where it's like, yeah, I used to live in a darkness of ignorance. I did not know myself until this beautiful man taught me to be.
Mm-hmm.
I would die for him.
Yeah, exactly. It creates interesting, fun opportunity. Like, again, it's a playground of a game. I think MÖRK BORG, or like, if you're the kind of person who is greatly amused by the video game Dwarf Fortress, or reading stories of people getting into various shenanigans in Dwarf Fortress, I think MÖRK BORG would appeal to you, because I think this is obviously a game that is very good for one-shots, and campaigns are going to be very chaotic, weird affairs, like a hex scrawl, was it Western Marches style hex scrawl campaign, whereas you're just relying on random tables to create the setting for you. So yeah, I think that's the appeal of MÖRK BORG. If that doesn't sound cool to you, then yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I don't think this is for people who enjoy Dwarf Fortress. Dwarf Fortress is trying to impose structure on something, trying to contain something, a structure which is going to inevitably sprawl out into chaos and fall apart. In MÖRK BORG, you have to embrace the chaos. You have to accept that everything is going to go horribly wrong and end up in
disaster impends. What you gonna do?
If you're only knee deep in entrails, you're probably doing well.
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna eat some butterflies. Go for it.
Yeah.
Jesus, yeah. I think the thing is, though, in Dwarf Fortress, the mantra is losing is fun. And I think that's kind of the key, is that chaos always wins in the end. So yeah, maybe it is a different approach, but I
get what you mean about reading about Dwarf Fortress, because yes, the chaos will always win. They're not going to succeed. Or they, on the rare occasions where they do succeed in a Dwarf Fortress righto, it's like, oh my god, these dwarves are serious heroes.
Yeah. Or it's boring now. I've got to start a new settlement. Things are too stable for my liking. So I think we're ready to move on. I guess we're already talking about why people play it that way.
I mean, yeah, it's lightweight fun. It's nobody is going to have an experience in MÖRK BORG that, I mean, I suppose you might. It's so chaotic, anything might turn up, but it is not built to make you think or feel things deeply, which is fine. Not everything has to do everything. It is, it's built to be lightweight fun, and I can see how it would be extremely fun, especially if you had, some beers or like a high caffeine, a high caffeine drink with some rum in it. Yeah, it'd be a real treat.
MÖRK BORG, I have to say, from its game design, I deeply appreciate that it is a game I can just invite players over and have them make characters at the table. We don't have to do a session 0 to make characters ahead of time, and it's highly randomized, so it's fun and interesting. And all the random rolls are optional. You can just pick classes and whatnot.
Can you imagine having a session 0 for MÖRK BORG and going, all right, now, so what sort of themes do we want to explore in this campaign? No, it's not that.
Yeah.
It's
what level of child cannibalism is acceptable to this group?
It makes me think of Waffle House, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of games are trying to be molecular gastronomy, but there's a reason there's Waffle Houses everywhere and they stay open even when there are hurricanes. It's extremely robust.
It is. Yeah. I should mention some of, like I mentioned earlier, some of the spin-offs of MÖRK BORG. I did play Cyborg. A friend of mine, Max from Relatable Roles podcast, ran a one shot of Cyborg, and it's very similar, but it has a very glitchy, like Wired magazine from the early 2000s punk kind of aesthetic to it, which I like. You have glitches instead of omens. There it's very fun. There was actually I saw a thing on itch.io of adding Godzilla to Cyborg. There's a random table of which way is the giant kaiju moving through the city and how is it going to affect every hex in the entire city. I was like, oh man, I really want to do that one day. Oh yeah, there's a MÖRK BORG adventure about fight like a dungeon inside a giant monster, like fighting through its various organs as like chambers of a dungeon. And
that's not that innovative.
It's fun though.
There's a Dreamcast RPG from the late 90s that did that. When it's been done in a video game, it's not innovative.
I think one of my favorite rule mechanics.
Thank you for being so snobby that you spare me having to do it, James.
Oh, my pleasure.
I am.
Yeah. Frontier Scum, which is the Western one, is a very weird Western one, but it has a similar thing to the Shield, but I think a lot better. So every character you play, some sort of saddle tramp, wandering hobo with a gun. And you just have reloads of ammo. When you roll 1 on an attack roll, you lose a reload. But like the best is the hat rule. So every character starts with a hat. And the first time
the Indiana Jones hat.
Yeah, well, yeah, a cowboy hat, or it could be a bolt. You actually roll. There's a random hat table, of course. I'm sorry.
Of course.
But when your character gets attacked, you can choose to have the attack knock your hat off. And then at the end of the fight, and you take no damage. At the end of the fight, you can roll to see if your hat survived. So this gives characters actually a good amount of survivability because, fights only last a couple of rounds. They shoot you, that knocks your hat off, you shoot them, killing them, and then hopefully your hat survives or they have a hat, you can loot from them. So as long as...
so you can have multiple hats. Oh no, my sombrero, it's destroyed. Well, guess I'll have to take this dusty old Hamburg.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, well, you're aware of the thing where Indiana Jones's hat represents his mortality, and that's why he never abandons it behind him, even when going back for it, like, threatens his very life.
I did not. I mean, thinking back, I can definitely see that.
Sorry, just some English major shit here.
Yeah. No, it's great.
But on the list of various supplements and spin-offs and stuff, I was very surprised, given the game's Swedish heritage, that nobody has yet done Borg.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you look on itch.io, there are literally hundreds of supplements for it already. It is a bit like we mentioned earlier, it is a very open license, and they encourage people to make content for them. And as long as you have a cool graphic design, really, that's the main thing more than anything else. You can make something for it.
There was a time in my career when I did not think that layout mattered that much, where I'm like, people have told me online that they're like, just give me the straight text in a readable font and 2 columns, and that's all I need. I don't need it to look like a coloring book. I don't need it to be fancy. And that's just not true. People think they want that, but when they get it, they don't buy it.
Yeah. The PDF, the free PDF text-only version of this game it really lacks something, because the flavor of the game is, some of it is in the text, but so much of it is in the presentation. It's, and that's where a lot of the attitude comes from as well. And I was initially disappointed when I got hold of this. It promises itself to be a doom metal thing, or the heavy metal album cover role-playing game kind of thing. And I was thinking, well, come on, Hawkwind, who actually did albums and toured with Michael Moorcock, it did not have any elements of that, but it does have its own flavor. It's not, if you don't expect it to be the game of something you've already come across, it is its own beast very much, and it's a large and scaly beast shambling towards Jerusalem. It's
waiting to be born.
Waiting to be born. Yeah.
I do like. We haven't even mentioned the classes, because there are some I do like the way they do class abilities. That you roll there's 6 abilities. Each class rolls or picks one of the 6 abilities, and they're thematic of like the class they're inspired by. Like there's a rogue, there's a fighter type, but like the fighter's called the Fang Deserter, and the
man,
rogue is
I would so play that. I would play the hell out of that.
And then the Gutterborn Scum is the rogue equivalent, and it's very good. Because you get like one cool little trick you can do to even the odds, but that's it. And if you're doing a campaign, you can eventually get more of them. But that's if you're doing that. That's if your character survives an adventure. It goes on. And it's a very easy template to make your own classes for. You just need to think of 6 abilities and some stat modifiers and bam, and some items, and bam, you're done.
The brown scimitar of Galgenbeck is not a brilliant joke, but the shoe from Death's Horse is pretty great.
Any final thoughts on MÖRK BORG?
It's fun. We probably overthought it. And when you were playing MÖRK BORG, I would strongly encourage you to not overthink things and just go with your gut and laugh a lot.
Yeah.
This looks like it is kind of bulletproof fun if you follow the vibe.
Yeah, it is definitely a game of vibes, more than airtight game design or and like sometimes that's all you need. Like it's like you don't want to overthink it. Like there are games I prep for like days and weeks ahead of time and like think about and meditate on. There are games like yeah, I can run this, sure, why not? Like, and then invite friends over and just bullshit something in the last 10 minutes, right before they show up. And this is very much that.
Yeah, I'd say you have to take it on its own terms. And if there was a session 0, we were talking earlier, I'd have maybe a kind of almost a 10 or 15-minute thing of just, do not expect, making sure that the players' expectations, particularly if they're not familiar with it beforehand, that they're not expecting narrative, that they're not expecting to role play a great deal, that they're not expecting the NPCs to be fleshed out and there to be, narrative and themes and stuff like that. This is where it is old school OSR. It's in the old school. This feels like an earlier, simpler, darker time. And if you take it at that level, you can have fun with it. I'm glad I read it. I'm glad I played it. I'm pretty sure I will never look at it again.
I mean, that's really all we could ask, like, is to try out a new game. Like, there's many games I've only played once and will never look at again. So, but it like, yeah, for me, it's fun. I'll probably play it again with some my own material because, again, like I mentioned, it's very easy to graft onto your own material or adapt stuff from other games because it's such a dead simple system. I think we are ready for our backers. So, Greg?
Yoshiaki Joel Koga. Thank you, Yoshiaki Joel Koga. I appreciate your support.
And I would like to thank Scribblykins. I know Scribblykins. He is a patron of RPPR, and I've actually run games for him online. He's a very cool person. And I would like to thank him for supporting Ludonarrative Dissidents. And in our next episode, we are going to be switching gears just slightly. As we are going with Eclipse Phase 2nd Edition, which is, I mean, it's really the exact polar opposite of MÖRK BORG in every way. It is a very dense setting, very complex rules. It is science fiction, and it is very serious. I mean, you can do fight games, of course, with it, but like, yeah. And that will be a very interesting episode. So stay tuned for that. And we will talk to you all later.
All right.
Later.
Ta-ta, y'all.